Read a Mashable article a couple minutes ago before I started driving, and it got me thinking about something to talk about, and that is the nature of online censorship and how we very well might be falling into a bit of a trap. So, net neutrality has kind of been a big hot button topic as of late for obvious reasons, with Trump's head of the FCC looking to eradicate net neutrality laws in terms of, internet speed lanes and whatnot. But there is something that has not been really widely considered, and that is legitimate censorship and the nature of that censorship. And something I've noticed over the past year or two is that the liberal side of things tends to do a lot of the things that they kind of complain about the more conservative side doing, and by the same token, they kind of are guilty of some of the things that the conservative side kind of tends to accuse them of. And mainly what I'm talking about here is legitimate censorship. So, the big thing right now is that a lot of people are Nazis. There are a lot of neo-Nazis and hardcore conservatives who are ironically coming out in support of neo-Nazism, white supremacy, and whatnot, which makes absolutely no sense in terms of being a neo-Nazi, because Nazis liked Germans. What does that have to do with being white and European, or of European descent? Neo-Nazis are fucking dumb. But being a liberal myself, I had allowed myself to fall into kind of this trap, almost, of thinking that, maybe we should, censor people from being able to talk about these topics online. But this Mashable article brought up that, this is kind of opening the door to other forms of censorship, isn't it? Because if you want to censor what you consider to be bad, which would be neo-Nazism and white supremacist bullshit, is that not still censorship at its core? And if liberals are all about preventing net neutrality from getting eradicated, true net neutrality would mean allowing neo-Nazis and white supremacists to say what they want online. Otherwise it just wouldn't be fair. And so the reason that this article was written was to address that it was announced, I guess, by several companies and services that these companies will be removing most, if not all, white supremacist and neo-Nazi chatter from their services. And specifically, a reference was made to a website that was supporting white supremacy and neo-Nazism, and this was hosted on GoDaddy, and GoDaddy pulled down the site. Then they re-hosted it on Google's hosting service or platform, I guess Google's cloud platform, and Google pulled it down. And this raises the question of, Where do we draw the line? Where do we stop and say, whoa, you can't say that? And that is an interesting question. If you're going to say that it's okay to censor people who are talking about hating black people or any minority, well, are you also going to essentially bar people from large facets of the internet who make fun of autistic kids, like who don't approve of liberal ideas, who don't approve of conservative ideas? Either way. And this kind of falls into the strange conversation that is, what rights do major corporations have over the content hosted on their services? And the obvious answer is absolute control. They have the right to absolute control. If they are hosting the server, they own the site, that in spite of the fact that you are paying for a service, you are indeed paying for a service. However, services have terms, contracts have clauses, etc. So with all that in mind, does that then mean that they are in the right to remove your access to the service, even if you have paid for it, if the company hosting your content disagrees with it? And is that within their right? Many would argue yes. And I don't know. Because a good part of me says no. But the problem is, legally yes, but I think that we probably need to figure out some kind of, whether it be legislation or just an informal agreement, to say, no, we're not going to remove that just because. I don't know. Maybe you could set a specific standard, say removing legitimate hate speech. But is that hate speech? I don't know, because I don't know what the legal definition of hate speech is, but I feel that we should use probably that as the baseline. Even if you don't agree that maybe the legal definition of hate speech doesn't go far enough, or maybe it goes too far in your opinion, one way or the other. I would assume leftists would think one way and righties would think the other. But regardless of that, I think that should probably be the baseline, because that's the only legal thing we have really for that, is the concept of what is hate speech. It's just strange, this spot that we've kind of put ourselves in by relying on so few companies for so many things. And the comparison was made in the article, and I think it was a really good one, to how Twitter for quite some time has been fighting a losing battle with both legitimate trolls, as they put it, and just bots. And primarily, though, they explicitly said trolls, but this also means bots. This statement also would apply to bots. And that is that no matter how many times you remove them from your service, they're going to come back. They're going to find a way to affect your service in some way. Unless, well, no, they will still find a way. Anybody who's worked in the information security sector can easily tell you that no matter how many defenses you put up, someone will find a way through it. It's not a matter of whether they'll do it. It's a matter of when and how they'll do it. And that is kind of the same thing here. Is there even a point to removing people from the service if they're just going to come back or find some other way to ruin all of your fun? And that still applies to both sides. If the conservative mindset was the one that was all throughout Silicon Valley and most of the tech world, it wouldn't matter how many liberals you kicked out, they would still keep coming. I think the better solution, and I agreed with the article on this is something I've thought for a while, is to just let them talk. Let them go. Because all it does is expose their deranged mindset to the world. Censoring them will only piss them off and drive them down and make them find more creative ways to put out their message, or make them even more aggressive than they already were. Meanwhile, if you let them spread their message of hate, and the impressionable people were going to swing either way no matter what. So I don't think there's much of a point in considering maybe those, because all you're doing there is saying that, or is essentially, if your argument would be, well, what about the impressionable people who are going to be drawn in by these people? One, you could easily argue that, well, those people probably already had a conservative mindset anyway and were just getting confirmation that this is a valid way of thinking, or they're somebody who didn't have any thoughts of their own anyway and would have just gone with whoever. And if you're removing somebody's access to information on the principle that they will then steer in your mindset's direction, or at least away from that, then you're controlling their ideology. You're committing the censorship that, well, in this case, since we're blocking them from conservative mindsets, you're committing the very censorship and more or less mind control that conservatives are already accusing you of. So, you kind of, yeah. So it's just something that I hadn't really considered and really makes sense, that whenever you start censoring things, it can just roll on and on until the next thing you know, curse words are removed from the internet, you know? And it's this strange balance that I don't think anybody has a solution on setting up, which is how do you balance between censoring legitimately bad content and things you just don't like? And how do you deal with the fact that so few companies have all this control over all of the knowledge and information and communication in the world? Like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with having the entirety of the world being controlled by essentially Microsoft and Google? Because it's all through search engines, or maybe you could, like GoDaddy and Twitter and Facebook, like all this shit. Social media, especially Facebook, can easily be censored, have been shown in Facebook's own research to be able to control people's thoughts by controlling the information that they have access to. Facebook tends to give you as much confirmation bias as possible because it wants you to enjoy its service. But at the same time, is that then degrading the person because you're not exposing them to more to more information that can diversify their own way of thinking? You know, on the one hand, people don't want to be exposed to information that argues against them because it's annoying. It's annoying because your initial reaction is going to be, no, you're fucking wrong and stupid. And that is often my reaction to whenever I hear almost anything that sounds even vaguely conservative or right-wing. I try to catch myself, but a lot of the time, most of my brain just goes, no, fuck them. They're wrong. That's stupid. But not always. It's not always the case once I actually think about it. There is a balance that needs to be found. And right now, we don't have anything even close to that. Right now, we mostly have utter chaos, but we're starting to go towards the bad route of controlling people's thoughts and controlling information, and that's not what I support. It's not what I stand for. The fact that even Tor, the kings, what are supposed to be the last fucking I don't know what the word would be, but the bastion for free exchange of information without government or political or corporate interference, they are potentially going to be removing Tor nodes that are related to fucking white supremacy and neo-Nazism. Look, I get if you want to have a company or if you want to say as a company have a policy or a public statement saying, look, we don't like this shit that is on our service. We don't like them. We don't like these people who post this stuff on our service. But at the end of the day, you can still provide that service to them. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people are going to think there's something wrong with that, but fuck those people. Because I don't think that you're providing a fair service if you're telling people no simply because of their beliefs. You know what it's like? It's like whenever gay marriage, around the time that gay marriage got legalized, and there were all these stories coming out of, like, this bakery refused to sell these people a cake because they were gay. That's bullshit. It's like, all right, that's bullshit, but taking somebody, not even refusing somebody's money, but taking their money and then destroying taking away your service to them because you disagree with their beliefs, that's okay. And that's not really okay. I don't think that's okay. I thought back then with the gay cake, the gay marriage cake thing, I thought even back then that, you know, at the end of the day, it comes down to allow the company to make its decision. Allow them to have a policy of bigotry or hatred. Let them do that. Let them be public about it. And then let people not shop there. Let people allow the bakery to die. Because if that is the standard that they want to live by, of hating gay marriage, that's okay. Let them do it. Because part of the beauty of capitalism, there's not much to it, but part of it is the concept of supply and demand, and the idea that you can vote with your wallet. A company will not survive without customers, and if you aren't a customer to a company because you disagree with their policies, then you are doing everything that really you should need to do. That if enough people disagree with them, they will die on their own. And I think that's just fine. I think I was supposed to turn back there, but whatever. I'll get home a whole 10 minutes later than normal. Whatever. Yeah, I think talking this out, I've kind of convinced myself that, yeah, it is really bullshit to demand that these things be removed when these companies are just supposed to be providing a service. But then you come into a problem, and that is the question of, well, is it then? It's interesting now that I think about it, because I'm kind of contradicting myself. Because at the same time, is it not within Google's right or GoDaddy's right then to remove things from their service that they don't like? And I don't know about that. Because the difference is that, well, I don't know. Now with Tor in particular, that's different. That's hosted by a lot of people. And like that's a whole separate issue. But with like Google or GoDaddy, so does GoDaddy have the right to their own hosting? And that's it. God, that's such a hard question. Because a lot of me says yes, but then part of me says, well, no. But I guess if you want to put it up to capitalism, the capitalism answer is, well, yeah, they can do whatever they want, and then the cold hand of capitalism will just allow the free market to push that company down a little, or raise an alternative solution to the top. Of course, the problem is we know that really isn't how stuff tends to work in the tech world. Now, of course, these people these white supremacists or whatever could easily host their own server, their own web server and all that. But alright, here's another thought. So say we are okay with Google and GoDaddy removing content that they disagree with from their servers. Okay. What about ISPs? What if Comcast decides, hey, you know what? We don't like white supremacists either. So anything that we think is there, any website that we think has to do with supporting white supremacy, any Twitter accounts that we think support white supremacy, any films or documentaries we think might somehow support white supremacy, you can't get to them. You can't watch them. White supremacy podcasts, white supremacy websites, white supremacy YouTube videos, all of it. All of it. If we find it, if our web filters find it, you're not getting to it. Because we're not going to allow that to perpetuate. Because we're Comcast, and that's what we stand for. Hail the dollar. By the argument that it's okay for Google and GoDaddy and Etsy and whatnot by the argument that it's okay for those companies to remove neo-Nazi and white supremacist content from their sites, what is illegal about that? What is wrong about that? About Verizon or Comcast or whomever just removing your access to those things. They own your access to the internet, so whatever. And that comes back to, it's almost like the internet should be an unregulated utility or something. But, I guess nobody in Trump's boy at the FCC hasn't considered that because, he's stupid. So, yeah, it's really hard to say. It's really, really hard to say. Yeah, I think I'm done now. So I'm gonna actually check my GPS because I'm pretty sure that it's been trying to get me out of traffic for the last 10 minutes, and I've just been ignoring it because I wanted to rant about this. So, yeah. Read that Mashable article that I'm gonna put in the description, and hope to do more of these coming soon. See ya.